Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Today, Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee laid out the case for impeaching President Donald J. Trump. Lawyers for Democrats and Republicans on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees presented their respective findings to the full committee responsible for drafting articles of impeachment, a process that could begin by this week. Now, the hearing went on for roughly 9 hours. Democrats, led by counsel Daniel Goldman, put forward a very clear case explaining how President Trump misused the power of his office for his own personal gain.
The president's scheme is actually quite simple, and the facts are not seriously in dispute. It can be boiled down to 4 key takeaways. First, that President Trump directed a scheme to pressure Ukraine into opening 2 investigations that would benefit his 2020 re-election campaign and not the U.S. national interest. Second, President Trump used his official office and the official tools of U.S. foreign policy, the withholding of an Oval Office meeting and $391 million in security assistance to pressure Ukraine into meeting his demands. Third, everyone was in the loop, his chief of staff, the Secretary of State, and Vice President. And fourth, despite the public discovery of this scheme, which prompted the president to release the aid, he has not given up. He and his agents continue to solicit Ukrainian interference in our election, causing an imminent threat to our elections and our national security.
That part seems key, doesn't it? It's the reason that I think this is all happening, the impeachment, I mean, that President Trump is still not giving up. The crime is not over. It's happening over and over and over in front of us. The Democrats did offer the president the chance to have his own lawyer represent him at the hearing, but he chose not to. So Republicans on the committee were left with the task of defending the president. And in doing so, they basically followed roughly 3 different strategies. One was just to yell and scream and attempt to kind of deny the process any legitimacy. We certainly saw a lot of that. It was expected. The next tactic was to just lie about the basic agreed upon facts. Here's just one small example, but it's illustrative. That was a lie we heard from Republican counsel Steve Castor. This guy's the lawyer of the Intelligence Committee, so he's poured over all this stuff. He should know the facts. And he said that Ukraine did not know the president was extorting the country by withholding much-needed military aid.
At the time of the July 25th call, senior officials in Kyiv did not know that the security assistance was paused. They did not learn it was paused until the pause was reported publicly in the U.S. media on August 28th.
That's not true. That's simply not the case. Anyone who's been following the testimony knows that's not the case. I imagine that Castor knows it's not the case when he's up there under oath saying it is the case. Laura Cooper, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, Eurasia, who works in the Trump White House, she testified during the impeachment hearings of the State Department, flagged Ukrainian concerns in an email the same day as President Trump's infamous phone call, more than 1 month before Castor, who you just saw there today in front of the microphone, say they became aware. New York Times also reported that Ukraine's former deputy foreign minister said Ukraine knew about the freeze back in July. And the third strategy that we saw today was to try to explain it all away with essentially 2 weak arguments. One, that Biden and Ukraine had it coming, so Trump's actions were justified. They deserved it. The other, that President Trump's attempted extortion never really came to anything, so it doesn't really matter. And that's it. That's the sum of their case. Now, it is unclear exactly what happens next in terms of the process. We are still awaiting next steps in the impeachment inquiry. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler did say yesterday that articles of impeachment will presumably be introduced this very week. But one thing is clear, even with all the hearings and almost inevitable impeachment and the facts laid out, we know what they are still doing it. Still, right now, as Daniel Goldman pointed out today.
Despite the public discovery of this scheme, which prompted the president to release the aid, he has not given up. He and his agents continue to solicit Ukrainian interference in our election, causing an imminent threat to our elections and our national security.
Rudy Giuliani just got back from Ukraine, where he was tweeting his open threats that U.S.-Ukrainian cooperation would not proceed until the Ukrainians delivered on what the president has been trying to extort them into doing. Ukraine's President Zelensky still has not gotten his White House meeting. Have you noticed that? That's never been forthcoming? So ask yourself, what conditions have to be met for that meeting to happen? Tomorrow, on top of it all, President Trump will be meeting with the foreign minister of Russia on the day after unsuccessful peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. It sure looks like everything is still on the table. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.